How to know how many lives you have lived. 9 signs of reincarnation. The soul never thinks without a picture. Aristotle. Have you ever met someone for the first time and felt like you've known them forever? Or picked up a new skill as if you'd mastered it long ago? These are more than coincidences. They could be echoes from a life you've lived before. In today's video on spiritual wisdom, we'll explore 9 powerful signs that may reveal how many lives your soul has experienced. But more importantly, this isn't just about curiosity. It's about using that knowledge to deepen your self-awareness and evolve in the present moment. As you watch, ask yourself, what memories might my soul be carrying? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's grow together on this sacred journey. 1. Intense and frequent deja vu. Deja vu is often misunderstood as nothing more than a mental hiccup, a momentary brain glitch. But for those on a spiritual path, its intensity suggests something far more profound. When these moments strike, when you feel like you've been in a place you've never visited, or lived a moment that technically hasn't happened, they can stir something deep within you. It's not just a flicker of recognition. It's a soul-level knowing. You don't just remember with your mind. You remember with your entire being. The sensation can feel like walking into a memory that isn't yours in this lifetime, yet feels unmistakably real. Your heart rate shifts, your breath pauses, and there's a subtle inner pull as if something ancient within you is waking up. These are not ordinary sensations. These are soul memories. You might be standing in a crowd and suddenly feel a wave of familiarity, not with the people, but with the feeling of being there, as if your soul has returned to a scene it once knew. Unlike dreams that fade or thoughts that pass, this kind of deja vu often carries emotional weight. It can feel comforting or unsettling, beautiful or eerie. But what marks it most is its vividness. The stronger the emotion and detail you feel, the more likely you're tapping into a memory from a previous incarnation. And that's where the understanding of reincarnation becomes essential. These aren't accidents of the mind. They are evidence that your consciousness has lived beyond this single life, and that it is still connected to experiences far older than your current name or form. Some may experience this through people meeting someone for the first time, but instantly feeling like you've known them forever. There's no explanation for the comfort, the bond, the magnetism. Words aren't necessary because the energy speaks louder. It's not about love at first sight. It's about recognition at first soul glance. In other cases, it could be a language, a smell, or even a historical event that brings tears to your eyes, even if you've never read about it before. These unexplained emotional responses are not coincidences. They are remnants of past lives trying to break through the veil of forgetfulness. Reincarnation teaches us that time is not linear, and that the soul gathers wisdom and imprints across many lifetimes. So when deja vu enters your awareness, it may be the soul's way of handing you a thread, one that connects you to the fabric of who you have always been. It's not fantasy, it's spiritual physics. Energy never dies, it only transforms. Your experiences are recorded in your soul's blueprint, and deja vu is when one of those old blueprints temporarily overlays the present moment. If you listen closely, these flashes are not just strange moments to be dismissed. They are invitations, clues, reminders. In a world that tells you to define yourself by your current status, role, or achievements, deja vu whispers something timeless. You are not just this body. You are not just this name. You have lived before, and your soul remembers. If you've ever felt a wave of intense deja vu that tugs at your soul, not just your mind, you're not alone. Comment: I believe it's a soul memory if this resonates with you. Or, I think it's just the brain if you see it differently. Let's open the conversation. 2. Instant connections with people or places. Some connections defy logic. You meet someone for the very first time, and yet your heart skips the introductions it just knows. There's no awkwardness, no small talk, just a strange, sacred ease, as if your souls have been waiting to meet again. This kind of instant bond isn't about physical attraction or shared interests. It's something deeper, something older. These are soul reunions, echoes from another lifetime where your spirits already danced, fought, or loved. When you meet again in this life, time bends. The connection feels effortless and unexplainably powerful, like continuing a story that never really ended. This same phenomenon doesn't just happen with people, it happens with places too. You walk into a town, step onto a stone path, or sit beside a body of water, and a flood of peace washes over you. You feel strangely at home, like you've walked those streets or heard those winds before. That feeling isn't fantasy, it's your soul remembering. It's your energy recognizing a vibration it once merged with, long before this body, this name, or this lifetime. Elena, a 32-year-old woman from Chicago, had never been outside the United States. But when she visited an old temple in Kyoto, Japan, she was overwhelmed by emotion. She couldn't understand the language or history, but her body reacted and she cried without knowing why. That night, she dreamed in vivid detail of a life she never lived. Rituals, names, even grief. Her conscious mind didn't have the answers, but her soul did. These moments are not fiction. They are spiritual whispers of who we once were. You might find that, with certain people, you fall into rhythm, as if no time has passed. You speak the same thoughts. You sense each other's moods. You know what they'll say before they say it. These aren't coincidences. They are signs of shared timelines, past lives overlapping into the now. And when it happens, you don't need years to build trust. The safety, the depth that's already there, carved into your spiritual memory. Yet not all instant connections are pleasant. Some feel magnetic, but are full of conflict, confusion, or pain. These are soul contracts, relationships meant to resolve unfinished lessons from lifetimes before. You may be drawn to them, not because they are right, but because they are familiar. And that familiarity is meant to wake you up, challenge you, heal you, or free you. Your soul remembers more than your mind can comprehend. It recognizes energy. It knows the hands that once held it. It remembers the earth that once carried its weight. So when you feel something unexplainable, don't dismiss it. These are not random emotional spikes. They are spiritual signals, invitations to remember, to reconnect with the layers of yourself that transcend time. Everything you are drawn to in this life is a clue to the many paths you've walked before. Pay attention to what stirs your spirit. The people, the places, the feelings that pull you without reason, they are the footprints of your reincarnated journey, guiding you toward deeper truth, unfinished healing, and spiritual alignment. Have you ever felt instantly connected to someone or someplace? Comment below, "My soul remembers," if you've experienced these timeless reunions. 3. Natural wisdom or talents. Some children don't just play, they compose. Some don't just doodle, they create detailed portraits with no guidance. And some speak not like kids, but like philosophers trapped in tiny bodies. These abilities don't arise out of nowhere. They are not simply coincidences, nor are they always the result of exceptional parenting or early exposure. They are clues that the soul has walked this earth before. Clues that somewhere in the unseen fabric of time, your spirit once lived, learned, and mastered a craft, and now it's remembering. This phenomenon is often described as natural wisdom or innate talent, but in truth, it may be something much deeper, a memory echoing through lifetimes. When you find yourself unusually good at something you've never studied, it's worth asking, where did this come from? That ease, that fluency, that instinct, it might be the result of accumulated experience across many lives. Reincarnation doesn't always show itself in dramatic past life flashbacks. Sometimes, it's far more subtle. It slips through in the way your hands move across piano keys like they've done it 1,000 times before, or the way you understand people without needing words. The soul, unlike the mind, doesn't forget. It stores impressions, lessons, gifts, even traumas. And sometimes, when the conditions are right, these soul memories surface as seemingly unexplainable abilities. That's why a young girl may feel instantly drawn to healing others, or a boy instinctively knows how to lead and protect. It's not about what they've learned here, but what they've carried over. Talent, in this case, becomes spiritual evidence, a quiet testimony of the journeys your soul has already taken. Even adults experience this. You meet a new skill, and yet it feels old. You start a craft and feel like you've returned home. That sense of, I've done this before, is not just a feeling, it may be real. Your soul, infinite in its nature, may be guiding you back to your purpose by revealing past life strengths in your present life. The universe does not waste experience. What you built, refined, and mastered in one life continues as spiritual residue in the next. To ignore these signs is to ignore the compass of your own evolution. When a gift flows through you effortlessly, it's often a reminder that your journey is bigger than one lifetime. You are not born empty. You were born ancient. And sometimes, your greatest wisdom isn't what you've learned, it's what you've remembered. Are you one of those souls born with ancient wisdom or talents beyond your years? If this resonates with you, comment below. I remember my gift, to honor the wisdom your soul still carries. 4. Spontaneous memories or vivid dreams. Spontaneous memories or vivid dreams often arrive without warning, fleeting moments in sleep or deep stillness that feel more like remembering than imagining. You see yourself in a different body, in an unfamiliar place, living a life that isn't yours yet somehow. It feels deeply personal. These dreams aren't random mental projections. They carry emotional weight, rich textures, and the kind of clarity that normal dreams don't possess. Often, they unfold in places you've never physically visited, but you recognize every detail. You feel the weather, the texture of the walls, the emotional dynamics of people who don't exist in your current life. These are soul impressions, fragments of memory that transcend this incarnation. Sometimes these memories don't even wait for sleep. They emerge during waking hours through deja vu or sudden emotional surges triggered by ordinary experiences. A scent, a sound, a place can ignite a memory you've never lived but feel deeply. Maybe you pass an old cathedral in a city you've never visited, and your eyes well up with emotion you can't explain. Or perhaps you feel an irrational fear of water fire, or heights, rooted in an event that never happened in this lifetime. These aren't coincidences. They are energetic residues from previous lives, proof that the soul carries memory, even when the mind does not. Many people experience recurring dreams involving specific locations or individuals they've never known in this lifetime. These dreams often come with a heavy emotional charge, longing, grief, deep connection, or even a sense of responsibility. You may find yourself dreaming repeatedly of fleeing danger, speaking in a foreign tongue, or finding sanctuary in ancient temples. Each dream becomes a thread in a larger tapestry your soul is weaving, gently revealing chapters of its long journey through time. Children are often the clearest conduits for these past life memories. Before the conditioning of logic and social norms sets in, they speak freely about other parents, distant lands, and events far beyond their current age or knowledge. Some may describe their death in a previous life with astonishing detail, or identify places and people they've never seen. These spontaneous recollections are the soul's raw voice, honest, unfiltered, and powerful. As we grow older, those memories are pushed beneath layers of rationality, but they don't disappear. They simply wait for the right moment to re-emerge. During spiritual awakening, the veil begins to thin. You start noticing connections between your dreams, emotional patterns, and the larger questions about your existence. Your vibration rises, and with it, your sensitivity to subtle energies. This is when spontaneous memories intensify, becoming invitations to explore your spirituality and reconnect with your true essence. The soul starts revealing its ancient wounds and victories, asking for integration, healing, and remembrance. These glimpses are not just personal. They are spiritual clues that you have lived before, loved before, and possibly left something unfinished that now calls for your attention. In the language of energy, nothing is ever lost. Everything is stored, waiting to be retrieved. The law of attraction plays a quiet but powerful role in this. As you evolve, you begin to attract exactly what you need to remember. These memories don't return randomly. They surface when you're spiritually ready. That's when manifestation becomes deeper than visualizing material things. It becomes a process of summoning your soul's truth. The dream isn't just a dream, it's a signal. It's your soul reminding you of what it still carries, what it still seeks, and what it has always known. If you've ever felt a dream or memory that seemed more real than this life, it may be your soul remembering. If you believe this message is meant for you, repeat after me. These memories are sacred. I receive them with trust, knowing they are guiding me. 5. Fears or phobias without cause. Unexplained fears, whether it's the terror of deep water, the panic on high places, or the dread of confined spaces, often go far beyond logic. These phobias can feel like irrational overreactions, especially when nothing in your present life explains them. But the truth is, some fears may be echoes of a trauma your soul has carried from another lifetime. While your conscious mind doesn't recall the experience, your body still remembers. The trembling hands, the racing heart, the overwhelming urge to escape it all points to a deeper memory that lives beneath the surface of awareness. Take the example of a woman who's never experienced a drowning incident, yet avoids lakes and pools with intense fear. Or the man who's never been trapped, yet panics in elevators or small rooms. These reactions don't stem from the present. They often reflect unresolved energies imprinted on the soul from the past. According to spiritual wisdom, your soul holds onto certain imprints from one life to the next, especially those involving sudden trauma, fear, or loss. And these imprints can manifest as instinctive, seemingly irrational fears that you just can't shake. Your body's reactions are not failures, they are signals. When your nervous system goes into overdrive without cause, it may be because your soul remembers a danger it once faced. These aren't just feelings to suppress or medicate away. They are messages deeply encoded into your energetic being, asking to be heard, honored, and healed. And through healing, these fears can become doorways to deeper self-knowledge and soul integration. Many people who explore past life regression discover startling connections between their present phobias and their previous lifetimes. A fear of heights might trace back to a fall in a previous incarnation. A fear of being buried alive might be linked to a lifetime that ended in war or disaster. Even modern therapy is beginning to acknowledge the powerful effect of subconscious memory, and spiritual healing expands this awareness into the timeless journey of the soul. These fears are not random, nor are they punishments. They are invitations. They invite you to explore your past, not with fear, but with curiosity. To see your phobias not as obstacles, but as remnants of a story that's still unfolding. You're not broken. You're remembering. You're reconnecting with pieces of yourself, long hidden beneath the veil of time. By working through these deep emotional imprints, through practices like meditation, conscious breathing, journaling, or energy work, you begin to reclaim lost parts of your power. You don't have to know exactly what happened in the past to release it. What matters is your willingness to feel, to listen, and to shift the energy that still lingers. Every unexplained fear is a trail of breadcrumbs leading you home, not to your house or your name, but to your soul. And with each layer you peel back, you're reminded that your life is not the first page in your story. It's just the latest chapter. If you've ever felt a fear that makes no logical sense, you're not alone, and your soul might remember what your mind has forgotten. If this message resonates with you, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and share your experience in the comments below. Let's heal and release it together. 6. Fascination with specific cultures or time periods. There are moments in life when you stumble upon a piece of history, a photograph, a melody, or even a scent, and suddenly you're overcome with a strange emotion that has no explanation. It's not just curiosity. It's as if something ancient within you has been awakened. You may find yourself inexplicably drawn to a specific culture or time period, as if it's a part of your story, even though you've never lived it in this life. This deep emotional attachment to an era, be it ancient Egypt, the Victorian age, or tribal Africa, feels almost sacred. It touches something so real and familiar inside you that logic falls short. That resonance isn't accidental. It's the echo of memory, one that doesn't belong to your body, but to your soul. Many people experience this recognition without understanding it. It might be sparked by watching a documentary, walking through an old temple, or hearing a traditional instrument you've never heard before. Suddenly, you're moved to tears. Something within you knows the sound, the place, the story. This is what we call soul recognition, a gentle but undeniable reminder that you may have lived during those times. Your emotional reaction is not imagined, it's remembered. Science may not yet have language for it, but many spiritual paths understand that your consciousness is layered. While your current identity may be limited to this lifetime, your soul carries impressions from previous incarnations. These impressions can surface as irrational longings, unexplained preferences, or powerful emotional responses. They rise like whispers from another time, guiding you back to who you've always been beneath the surface of your present self. The deeper truth is that your soul doesn't forget. Even if your mind has no recollection, your energetic field holds everything your loves, your losses, your roles, your rituals. That's why people sometimes discover they have a deep passion for ancient scripts, foreign languages, or specific symbols without ever studying them. There's a familiarity there that defies logic. It's not learning, it's remembering. You weren't imagining it when you felt chills walking into that ancient cathedral. You weren't overreacting when your heart broke while reading a tragedy from a distant empire. And you certainly weren't fantasizing when you knew the layout of a historical city you'd never visited. The soul speaks in emotion, in symbols, in subtle awakenings that can't be dismissed by reason alone. This connection to past cultures can also carry a sense of mission. It's as if your soul has returned to continue something that was unfinished. That's why some people feel a calling to preserve certain traditions, fight for forgotten truths, or honor the wisdom of ancient civilizations. They're not just students of history, they're participants in it. So when you feel that pull toward a time, a place, a people, don't ignore it. It may very well be your soul leading you to the fragments of your truth scattered across lifetimes. And through that recognition, you may find pieces of your purpose in this one. If you've ever felt drawn to a place or time you've never lived in, your soul may be remembering. If you believe and are ready to receive it, repeat after me. This connection is not random, my soul remembers. I trust the journey unfolding for me. 7. Feeling like an old soul. You always felt different, not in a way that made you feel superior, but in a way that made you feel ancient, as though you carried stories in your bones, echoes in your heart, and a kind of wisdom in your silence. While others around you chased the next trend, laughed over trivial things, or stayed consumed by surface-level drama, you watched. Not because you were cold, but because you simply didn't resonate with the noise. From a young age, you preferred solitude over popularity, reflection over distraction, and meaning over entertainment. You were not detached, you were deep, and that depth is not always born in this lifetime. Old souls don't just grow wise, they return wise. If you've always gravitated toward introspection, craved deep conversations that feel like soul excavations, and found comfort in the unseen and the unspoken, it's likely your soul remembers. You may have sat quietly in the company of many, feeling as if no one could quite see the real you, the version of you that transcends age, time, and identity. That's not alienation. That's reincarnation's whisper. It's your soul nudging you gently, reminding you that you've lived before, that your knowing wasn't taught, but remembered. This longing for meaning often shows up in your spiritual curiosity, not just as interest, but as recognition. When you hear truths about energy, consciousness, the law of attraction, or manifestation, you don't just believe, you resonate. These aren't ideas you're trying to accept. They're truths you feel like you already knew. Your soul isn't learning, it's waking up. You may find yourself drawn to the mysteries of life, why we're here, how energy shapes reality, or what exists beyond death. That pull isn't random. It's a result of lifetimes spent exploring, seeking, and evolving. You've likely felt older than your peers in more ways than one emotionally, spiritually, and even intellectually. While others sought applause, you sought alignment. While others performed for approval, you pursued a purpose. Your detachment from shallow conversations doesn't come from arrogance, but from the soul's exhaustion with repetition. You've lived through it all before the drama, the noise, the illusion. Now, you crave truth. And yet, in your depth, you've also known loneliness, because not everyone can walk with you into the places you're willing to go. Not everyone is ready to remember what your soul already knows. You've had to sit with silence and let it speak, let it teach. But even in isolation, you've always known. Your difference was never a curse. It was a sign, a spiritual signature, proof of many lives, many lessons, and many returns. To feel like an old soul is not a phase or personality trait. It's a spiritual inheritance, a sign that you've walked through lifetimes gathering wisdom, that you've been here before, and that you came back with a mission. The world may not always understand you, but deep inside, you know exactly who you are. And that knowing that unshakable truth is the loudest echo of your soul's eternal journey. If you've ever felt like an old soul navigating a world that doesn't quite match your depth, let us know you're still with us and comment, "I feel the wisdom within," below. Your words help us connect more deeply with souls like yours. 8. Recurring life patterns or lessons. Some emotional patterns feel strangely familiar, like deja vu for the soul. You may find yourself falling into the same relationship dynamics over and over again, trusting too soon, getting hurt, being abandoned, or sacrificing your own needs to please others. At first, it might seem like coincidence or poor judgment, but when the pattern repeats across years, different people, and even different environments, it's not random. It's reincarnation at work. These aren't just emotional habits. They're soul lessons your spirit has yet to master. They come back not to punish you, but to be healed. Until they are faced, integrated, and resolved, they will return again and again through new faces, new places, and new circumstances. Spiritual wisdom teaches that the soul is a traveler through time, carrying emotional imprints and karmic memories across lifetimes. So when you're stuck in cycles of abandonment, betrayal, self-doubt, or rejection, these aren't just wounds from this lifetime. They may be echoes of unhealed traumas from lifetimes before where you weren't able to speak up, fight back, or walk away. Now, your soul is asking, will you finally learn what you were once too afraid to confront? Will you love yourself enough this time to choose differently? Take, for example, someone who constantly ends up in situations where they're undervalued at work, in friendships, in love. No matter how much effort they give, they feel unseen. This may not just be bad luck. It could be a recurring soul lesson to stop seeking external validation and remember their divine worth. The lesson is never about changing the world outside you. It's about evolving the world within you. And when you shift internally, the external reality must follow. The universe is patient. It doesn't rush your awakening. If you don't learn the lesson in this life, it will be lovingly reintroduced in the next. That's the grace of reincarnation. But the moment you recognize the pattern, truly recognize it, it begins to lose power over you. That's when you start writing a new story, not from fear or habit, but from consciousness and choice. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. What you call misfortune may actually be divine repetition, an invitation to evolve. You're not being tested, you're being taught. And every time the lesson returns, it carries the same message. You are ready now. Choose differently. Respond with awareness. Heal the wound at its root. These repeating emotional loops are sacred. They are not obstacles. They are assignments. And when you pass them, you don't just liberate yourself. You free your bloodline, your future lifetimes, and the collective energy field of those around you. You become a living testimony that healing is real, reincarnation is active, and spiritual wisdom is the path home. To affirm your commitment to breaking old cycles and embracing true growth, declare your intention. Comment below, I choose to learn and heal, to honor your soul's journey and encourage others to face their patterns with awareness and strength. 9. A deep inner search for meaning. There's a kind of emptiness that success can't fill, a restless stirring inside you. Even when everything in your life looks complete. You may have the job, the relationship, the stability, yet something deeper keeps tugging at your spirit. It's not dissatisfaction with life, it's a hunger for meaning. That quiet longing for something greater is one of the most profound signs your soul has walked this earth before. You're not just living this life, you're remembering. This inner yearning doesn't disappear, no matter how many goals you achieve or boxes you check. It follows you into quiet moments, whispers through sleepless nights, and reveals itself when you're surrounded by people, but still feel alone. You've probably tried to silence it by staying busy, by chasing the next achievement, but it always returns this subtle ache for something more timeless, more sacred. And that's because your soul has known deeper realms. It's carrying the echoes of lifetimes spent seeking, evolving, learning. You might have found yourself drawn to questions that others find too heavy or too strange. What's the purpose of suffering? Why do I feel things so deeply? Why do I feel older than my age? That isn't coincidence. It's spiritual memory trying to rise through your conscious mind. It's your soul nudging you toward your origin. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." That awakening begins with this hunger. It often leads you towards spiritual paths that seem unusual to others. Meditation, energy work, past life regression, or simply spending long hours in silence contemplating the meaning of it all. You might have tried to explain it before, but found words too limiting. That's because what you're experiencing goes beyond language. It's a remembering. A remembering of who you were, who you are, and who you're becoming. You're not just exploring spirituality, you're decoding your soul's blueprint from lifetimes ago. Even in childhood, this longing may have shown up. Maybe you looked at the stars and felt homesick for a place you couldn't name. Maybe you asked questions no one else around you could answer. Maybe you felt different, not better, just older, more tired, more sensitive, more aware. That sensitivity was not weakness. It was wisdom accumulated through many cycles of existence. And now, as you mature, the call grows louder, not for more things, but for more truth. This hunger eventually shifts your focus. The need to impress, to chase trends, to belong in places that drain you, it all begins to dissolve. You start letting go of superficial noise and gravitating toward peace, toward books that stir your soul, people who speak with depth, and environments that feel like sacred space. Your energy becomes more discerning, not out of judgment, but out of instinct. You're returning to yourself. What drives this longing is not confusion, it's clarity. It's your soul remembering what truly matters. You've lived before, and you came back, not to repeat, but to realign. The restlessness you feel is not a flaw, it's an invitation. Your soul is not lost, it's awakening. Remember, the journey of the soul is vast, mysterious, and often far older than we can imagine. The signs of reincarnation aren't just mystical ideas, they're spiritual breadcrumbs leading you back to your eternal truth. So if any of these 9 signs resonated with you, trust that your soul has walked many paths before this one, and each life has brought you closer to who you are meant to become. If you found value in today's message, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who's spiritually curious, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Make sure you turn on the notification bell so you never miss a chance to dive deeper into the wisdom of the soul. Your awakening is only just beginning. Why most people never survive their spiritual awakening. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom. In today's video, why most people never survive their spiritual awakening, we're diving deep into the raw truth behind why awakening feels more like a breakdown than a breakthrough. It's not just about light and love. It's about confronting illusions, shedding identities, and walking through the fire of your own transformation. As you listen, reflect on your own journey. Have you ever felt like your world was falling apart, only to realize it was falling into place? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your experience could inspire someone else who's still in the dark. Let's grow through this together. 1. The process is painful, lonely, and confusing. You're not just confused, you're unraveling. In a spiritual awakening, you don't step into light. You fall into darkness. The world you once knew begins to dissolve. Everything familiar with your beliefs, habits, identity collapses like a house built on sand. This is what mystics call the dark night of the soul, and Carl Jung called it the confrontation with the shadow, the buried self, the rejected memories, the pain you thought you'd escape. You enter the void. The past is gone. The future hasn't arrived. All that remains is the raw truth of the present moment, and it is terrifying. Your ego screams for safety. It clings to what it knows. It tells you you're going crazy. But the breakdown you're experiencing is sacred. It's not the end. It's the fire before rebirth. You feel like you're losing yourself, but in reality, you're shedding everything you're not. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." He knew this path was not for the faint-hearted. Spiritual awakening doesn't come with angel choirs and eternal peace. It comes with grief, silence, and the unbearable weight of seeing your illusions fall apart. A woman once told me about the moment it all began for her. She had everything: success, admiration, the life she dreamed of. But suddenly, she couldn't get out of bed. Her chest ached. Her smile felt fake. Her soul was calling her into stillness, and her body followed. She left her job, ended a long-term relationship, and for months, she felt like she was dying. But in that quiet suffering, she heard her real voice for the first time. Not the voice of who the world wanted her to be, but the voice of who she truly was. That's when the healing began. She didn't return to her old life. She created a new one from a place of truth. This is why most people don't survive their spiritual awakening. Not because it kills them, but because it requires a death. The death of the mask, the death of the false self, and most aren't ready to let go. So they return to the familiar. They numb the discomfort. They silence their soul. They choose the dream over the truth. But you can't unsee what awakening shows you. You can try to ignore it, but something in you knows that the life you had wasn't real. That's why this path demands courage. It demands that you stay present through the silence, the panic, the emptiness, because only through the collapse can something real emerge. Carl Jung taught that healing isn't becoming perfect, it's becoming whole. And wholeness is messy. It includes your rage, your grief, your shame, your light. True spiritual wisdom isn't about bypassing pain. It's about listening to what it's trying to teach you. You're not crazy. You're not lost. You're being broken open so your soul can finally breathe. And if you stay, if you sit in that darkness long enough, you'll find that what rises from the ashes is not your old self, rebuilt, but your soul, reborn. Comment below. I embrace the dark night with faith if you're walking through this sacred void. And if this message resonates, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to support others on their awakening path. 2. You must let go of everything that isn't real. Awakening demands the complete release of anything that no longer holds truth. Not just the obvious things like toxic habits or surface-level distractions, but the deep structures of identity. Your name, your roles, your achievements, your desires. It's a spiritual wildfire that doesn't politely ask for change. It consumes. Most people try to resist this process. They attempt to smuggle parts of their old life into the new frequency, hoping to keep their comfort while still evolving. But this inner contradiction only brings suffering. You cannot rise while holding on to what is falling away. What you cling to in fear will become the very thing that delays your liberation. Spiritual awakening is not about self-improvement. It is about self-dismantling. You are not being asked to become a better version of your ego. You are being called to witness its collapse. Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." This is not poetic. This is prophecy. Looking inside means seeing where your attachments live, where your identity has fused with illusions. When you finally stop negotiating with the truth, when you stop asking, "Can I keep this one piece of who I was?" that's when the breakthrough begins. But to get there, you must let everything false fall away willingly or through force. Letting go is not passive. It is the most courageous act you will ever perform. It will feel like death because in many ways, it is. You'll grieve what you once hoped for, mourn the versions of yourself that never became real, and question whether anything is left. But from that emptiness, something astonishing begins to emerge. Clarity, stillness, and power that doesn't rely on external validation. The burning down isn't destruction, it's purification. The collapse isn't failure, it's sacred recalibration. And so, awakening is not light and bliss at first. It is the breaking of illusions you called home. It is the shattering of dreams that were never yours to begin with. It is the terrifying freedom that comes when nothing is certain anymore. And yet somehow, everything starts to feel real for the first time. You stop chasing and start being. You stop proving and start remembering. What arises is not a polished persona, but a soul stripped of noise, resting in its truth. That is the essence of spiritual wisdom. And that is why most people never survive their spiritual awakening, not because they are weak, but because they are still trying to carry the weight of who they are not. If this message spoke to your soul, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What are you ready to let go of? Let's walk this awakening path together. 3. Awakening begins by breaking down your false identity. Spiritual awakening does not begin with bliss. It begins with devastation. It tears through the carefully constructed identity you've spent your entire life building. The titles, roles, dreams, and expectations you've attached yourself to begin to dissolve, and what's left is something terrifyingly unfamiliar. You don't recognize the life you've created, and worse, you no longer recognize yourself. This is not failure. This is the first step toward truth. As Carl Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. The awakening arrives not as a peaceful light, but as a fire that burns through illusion. This fire consumes the ego, the version of you that was shaped by societal conditioning, trauma, and survival mechanisms. It is not a gentle surrender. It's a brutal reckoning. You're forced to face the masks you've worn so long they became indistinguishable from your skin. And when they're ripped away, the exposure feels unbearable. The career that once defined you suddenly feels hollow. The relationships built on roles instead of truth begin to crack. The goals that used to excite you now seem absurd. Meaning itself collapses, and you're left standing in the ruins of a self that was never truly yours. In this collapse, silence becomes louder than words. You feel a void, not only around you, but within. The world, once so full of color and certainty, becomes gray and shapeless. This is what mystics have called the dark night of the soul. You are not just changing, you are dying, energetically, emotionally, spiritually. This death of the false self feels like madness. You're not sure who you are anymore. And this is the part most spiritual teachings gloss over the agony that comes before alignment. Because awakening doesn't begin with clarity. It begins with confusion. It doesn't hand you light. It plunges you into shadow. And if you're not prepared for this, you may think something is wrong. But nothing is wrong. The truth is simply dismantling everything that isn't built on it. Most people cannot survive this stage, not because they are weak, but because they've been taught to fear discomfort. They run. They retreat into old patterns. They numb themselves with distractions and tell themselves the old life was good enough. But those who endure, those who choose to stay in the fire, start to sense something profound, a stillness beneath the storm, a knowing that was always there, buried beneath the noise. You stop needing external validation because your worth is no longer tied to your image. You stop seeking meaning from outside sources because you realize that meaning emerges from within. Slowly, the pieces start to come together, but this time, they are not shaped by fear. They are shaped by the soul. This is spiritual wisdom in its rawest form. It teaches that awakening is not about becoming something new. It's about peeling away everything false so that your original essence can rise. It's not an addition, but a subtraction. And what remains after the shedding is not a polished, perfect self, but a real one. One that is deeply human, profoundly connected, and quietly unshakable. Have you ever faced a moment where your entire identity felt like it was falling apart, only to discover it was the beginning of something deeper? If so, share your story in the comments below, so others on this path don't feel alone. If you're just beginning your awakening, type, "I'm ready to shed the false self," so we can walk this journey together. 4. Awakening is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming honest. Awakening is not about striving for perfection or reaching some untouchable state of peace. It's about stripping away the layers of performance, approval-seeking, and self-denial. A true spiritual awakening asks you to stop pretending and start revealing not just to others, but to yourself. It calls you to meet your own eyes in the mirror without turning away. You begin to understand that healing doesn't come from fixing what is broken, but from loving what was never meant to be judged in the first place. This path is not paved with endless calm or sanitized positivity. Instead, it demands radical honesty. You begin telling yourself the truth you used to avoid, that sometimes you're scared, sometimes you're angry, and sometimes you feel utterly lost. But for the first time, you don't label those emotions as failures. You see them as messengers. You stop chasing the illusion of the higher self that is always composed, and instead hold space for the version of you that is raw, real, and still learning. That's where the sacredness lives, not in the perfection, but in the presence. As you peel back the masks, you realize that the goal was never to become someone new, but to remember who you were before the world told you who to be, before the conditioning, before the shame, before you learn to abandon yourself just to belong. You return to your own soul, unfiltered, untamed, and unapologetically human. You recognize that spirituality isn't a ladder to climb, but a ground to stand on when all the illusions fall away. A spiritual awakening isn't a one-time revelation. It's a continuous invitation to return again and again to what is true, to embrace your contradictions, to allow space for both light and shadow, to feel everything fully without turning it into a story of failure. As Carl Jung said, "I'd rather be whole than good." And so you choose wholeness, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it doesn't look spiritual, even when it's messy. The beauty of awakening is that it doesn't demand that you rise above life. It teaches you how to sink into it, fully present, fully alive. It's not about becoming holy. It's about becoming honest. And in that honesty, you find a peace that doesn't come from escaping the human experience, but from fully inhabiting it. That is the essence of true spiritual wisdom. Do you feel this truth in your soul? If you do, declare it in the comments. I choose honesty over perfection. And if this message speaks to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss a moment of spiritual wisdom. 5. You must face your shadow and unhealed wounds. Real spiritual awakening is not an escape from pain. It's a reckoning with everything inside you that's been buried, denied, or ignored. When the soul begins to stir, it doesn't invite comfort. It unearths chaos. Suddenly, you're face to face with your deepest insecurities, the jealousy you thought you'd outgrown, the fear that creeps into your relationships, the self-sabotage that keeps showing up when you're close to something good. These are not defects of character. They are messengers, echoes of old wounds asking not to be fixed, but to be understood. The shadow reveals itself through the very discomfort we try hardest to avoid. Every time you get triggered, every time you lash out, freeze up, or retreat, it's not because you're broken. It's because something inside you is still waiting to be seen. And until you face that part of you with presence and compassion, you remain bound to the same cycles, repeating pain in different forms. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that what you ignore doesn't disappear. It just drives your life from the dark There's a moment in every awakening where running is no longer an option. You stop seeking distractions and begin sitting with the rawness. That discomfort you've always fled from becomes your teacher. You learn to breathe through it, not around it. You learn to hold space for your sadness, to let your anger speak without turning it inward. And in doing so, you begin to reclaim your power. Because true healing doesn't happen when everything feels good. It happens when you finally stop betraying yourself to keep others comfortable or to avoid your own truth. Imagine every suppressed emotion as a thread, and your shadow is the knot where they all meet. Pulling one thread unravels another. It's not linear, it's not pretty, but it's real. The deeper you go, the more truth you uncover, and that truth doesn't set you free immediately. First, it breaks you. It shatters the version of yourself you built to survive. And in those shattered pieces, you find the seeds of who you were meant to become. You realize you were never meant to be perfect, only whole. That includes your fear, your guilt, your shame, your grief. You begin to understand that spiritual awakening is not about rising above your pain, but sinking into it with awareness so that it no longer defines you. Healing doesn't mean erasing the past. It means rewriting your relationship with it. Every scar becomes a line in your story, not the end of it. This is the heart of spiritual wisdom: to stop running, to stay, and to feel it all, not because it's easy, but because it's real. And in the stillness of that sacred discomfort, something begins to shift. Not outside, but within. The light you were searching for was never out there. It was hidden behind every shadow you dared to face. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on turning your shadow and wounds into the doorway to deep healing and awakening. 6. Most people don't make it through because they turn back too soon. Most people don't survive their spiritual awakening because they retreat too soon. The moment the ground beneath them begins to crack, they panic. The pain is too unfamiliar, the silence too loud, the fire too hot. So they turn back, not because they're weak, but because no one ever told them that awakening would feel like death before it feels like rebirth. The truth is, awakening demands everything you once held on to: your identity, your comfort, your illusions. And most people aren't ready to give those up. They cling to the old stories, to the masks they've worn for years, to the version of themselves that made sense in a world that no longer fits. But spiritual wisdom reminds us that growth doesn't come from clinging. It comes from surrender. When you let the grief wash over you, when you allow the silence to pierce through the noise of your mind, when you walk through the fire without trying to control it, you begin to dissolve. And in that dissolution, something sacred takes shape. You don't emerge as someone better. You emerge as someone real. Someone who has seen their own darkness and didn't run. Someone who broke into pieces and chose to gather those fragments, one by one, and love them back into wholeness. This is not strength in the conventional sense. It's not about being tough or unaffected. It's about being completely undone and still showing up. That is where your power is born. Not because you never shattered, but because you did and still rose from the ashes. The awakening strips you of everything false. It forces you to sit with your wounds, to question the beliefs you've inherited, to stare into the mirror and ask, who am I without the roles I've played? And the answer isn't always comforting, but it's always true. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that the truth doesn't free you gently, it breaks you open. And it's in that breaking that the light gets in. The illusions burn. The ego dies. The soul awakens. And yet, so many stop at the threshold. They crave the light, but fear the dark. They want transformation without the unraveling. But there is no shortcut. The fire is not there to punish you. It's there to purify you. If you stay, if you trust the process, if you surrender to the unknown, you'll realize that everything you feared losing was never truly you. What remains is your essence untamed, unmasked, and unshakable. That essence cannot be taken, cannot be broken, cannot be bought. It is earned in the silence, in the grief, in the fire. Through every night, you didn't think you'd survive, and every morning you rose anyway. And that, more than anything, is the mark of someone who has truly awakened. To affirm your strength and devotion to becoming who you truly are, leave a comment below. I rise through the fire. Your words may be the light someone else needs to keep going. 7. You become a living embodiment of truth. You no longer chase purpose. You are the purpose expressed in how you move through the world, how you speak with truth, and how you love without condition. This is no longer about finding a mission or convincing others of your value. The search ends the moment you realize that every breath, every boundary, every choice you make in alignment with your soul is your mission. You don't have to prove anything. You simply live it. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And when you become that person, not in thought, but in action, your life transforms. You stop striving to wake others up. Your presence becomes the awakening. People feel something shift around you, not because of what you say, but because of what you radiate. You're not trying to shine, you just do. You're no longer moved by applause or opinion because you've become anchored in something eternal. Your connection to source, not surface. This is the embodiment. It's not a performance. It's not a role you play on good days. It's a frequency you hold regardless of how the world responds. It's when your truth becomes your nature and your energy carries wisdom without effort. You might still walk into rooms where people misunderstand you, but it doesn't matter. The old need to be seen or validated dissolves because you've already seen yourself, and that was enough. Consider someone you know who radiates quiet power. They don't preach or posture. They don't wear their truth like armor. Instead, they move with clarity, with intention, and their silence speaks louder than the noise around them. That is the result of integration. That is the result of doing the inner work not for recognition, but for peace. Jung called this the process of individuation, where the false selves fall away and the soul steps forward. Most people don't survive their spiritual awakening because they expect enlightenment to be light. But the light only comes after you've faced the shadow, after the illusions fall, after the old personality dies. Embodiment demands more than intellect. It requires surrender. You can't fake being whole. You have to become it. And that means letting go of everything you used to chase for identity, including your need to matter. The truth is, you already matter. You don't need to shout to make an impact. Your grounded energy is the impact. Your clarity cuts through confusion. Your stillness makes others feel safe. Your love, held without attachment, heals in silence. This is the paradox of spiritual embodiment. The less you try to change the world, the more your presence changes it. So you stop performing purpose. You start living it. You move like someone who knows who they are. You speak only when your words carry weight. You no longer sell your energy to the world. You offer it, freely, only where it aligns. And in that way, you become the message. You no longer tell people what the truth is. You are the proof that it exists. If this message resonates with your soul, affirm it in the comments. I am the embodiment of truth. I live from within, not for validation. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the depths of spiritual awakening. As Carl Jung taught, transformation is rarely gentle. It demands that we confront the unconscious, release who we were, and step into the unknown. Not everyone survives this sacred unraveling, but those who do emerge with clarity, strength, and a deeper connection to truth. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more soul-nourishing insights. Make sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos. Your awakening matters, and you're not alone on this path.